Is this you? Have you run so many expeditions your head is spinning? Do you wish there was a better way? Well, there is! Simply switch off of Recluse and onto this guy. How's it going, guys? Coming at you today with an Ironeye guide for Nightreign. Ironeye is a ranged purist who makes use of the new bow combat in Nightreign to absolutely annihilate foes with oppressive damage. Sometimes you might find it worth it to use skills dropped by legendary weapons throughout your expeditions, but for the most part, you'll want to make use of Ironeye's S scaling with dexterity and unique bow moveset to do some mayhem, crazy style crash damage to bosses and enemies alike. There's a new bow moveset unique to Ironeye that removes the necessity of a supply of arrows and turns the heavy attack of bows into a triple arrow shot that fires 3 arrows in a 2-dimensional cone in front of you. This new heavy attack with bows is very easy to land on big bosses, making a way to almost always get faster stance breaks as Ironeye. Ironeye's passive skill is Eagle Eye. Before you even start playing, you're given the gift of more items than every other character simply for picking Arrow Guy Ironeye. His passive skill is Eagle Eye, which gives you a better item discovery base than other characters. You can boost this even further with silver pickled foul foots you come across on the expedition. This will make gold pickled foul feet drop more plentifully, which makes Ironeye even better for solo because you can kind of just spam these as you run around for even better rune acquisition. So to start, maniacally kill everyone in the nearby camp. Go as hard as possible with this because Ironeye's biggest strength is his ability to pump damage out, which will end up saving you oodles of time across your expedition. Once you've done that, level up while praying to Cthulhu at the nearby site of grace. From there, you have a couple choices. Do you want to level up? Do you want to get a flask? Choose wisely because the early game snowballs super hard into late game for Ironeye. Don't waste too much time and just stick to whatever you originally chose because Ironeye can delete day 2 field boss level enemies by the time you get to level 12 or so with almost 0 effort. But for now, while you're still a squishy level 1 to 3 baby ass head Ironeye, you'll want to get that little bit of extra survivability with another flask or a few extra levels. I'm going to break this into a review of Ironeye's skills and how they apply to early game strategy. You'll also want to keep out for the Frenzy Flame ruined towers that you can find out and about near this level, because when you find those ruined towers with the peasant infected by Frenzied Flame type enemies out and about, they 100% of the time have a weapon bow rack of weapons for early item pickups for Ironeye. If you spawn and don't see a church immediately next to you, look for a fort or a mausoleum, those blue structures. It's here that you'll be able to clear out a point of interest very quickly, and also potentially loot a stone sword key. Again, since Ironeye's strength is to pump out damage incredibly quickly, you almost don't ever really need to worry about knowing the attack patterns of most enemies you'll encounter. However, Ironeye's main consideration in combat is whether or not the enemy has a shield. This can be circumvented by using his skill, which is called marking. It will immediately place you behind enemies, and you can usually one-shot them after placing your marking skill on them. I don't know how much of an explanation the skill actually needs. It's a debuff you place on enemies that makes your arrows do 10% more damage and eventually fills out an invisible meter that stance breaks the enemy for an explosive chunk of damage. However, what is worth discussing is the actual lie FromSoft tells by omission about marking, which is that it gets iframes. When you find relics that buff this skill in any way, slap this onto Ironeye because it's probably the best skill in the game, no joke. Marking's everything in one. Debuff, extremely long-range dodge with iframes, gap closer, it has no weaknesses. Weak point, get it? Marking's utility is off the charts, and it also does what it's advertised to do, debuff the enemy, which also applies the effect to attacks your teammates make on the enemy. One of the more niche uses of weak point is the ability to completely pass through enemy assets, so if you need to critically hit a boss, you can still land a few more arrows before you marking through the downed boss to its literal weak point. So once you've cleared out a point of interest, you'll hopefully be at about level 4. It's now when Ironeye should already pretty much feel unstoppable. So with this power, traverse to the points of interest you'd like to get to with very little resistance, but again, just keep an eye out for high defense enemies. But again, use your ultimate combined with your weak point skills to trivialize these encounters. The necessity of single shot is actually not even that immediately apparent with Ironeye at first, because you're already pretty much annihilating bosses with marking and regular arrows alone. But who are we to complain that FromSoft gave this already broken character a way to do even more damage? The best place to use this skill is to clear out and knock down enemies with higher than average defense, knights and bigger bosses, usually. You can use single shot most effectively by finding a spot where most of your targets are simply vaguely in front of you, and it will hit all of them. It's that strong and low commitment. You'll also still get the 10% damage bonus if you hit enemies already under the effect of marking. Once you've reached level 4, it's worth finding a nearby Spectral Hawk to get a church if you haven't already for that little bit of extra survivability. If you started by running to a church, you'll want to abide by the previous segment, but instead, try to kill all the trash mobs on the way to the mausoleum or fort you aim for after having gotten the church, to make up for the time you spent going to the Church of America to get a flask. Depending on your comfortability, you can try to find more churches at this juncture of the game while doing your best to maintain a rune gain through the process. So, Ironeye's game plan is basically wide open while the second circle is still up. You'll be able to empty mobs so fast you almost have a guaranteed level 8 by the time it's time to fight your first Night Invader. Since this is the period of time when you'll be able to take on almost any boss in ruins or mausoleums, it's worth noting that while Ironeye already has great evasive ability with marking, you can also regular sprint, which is just holding the circle or B button while moving, without spending stamina while in Nightreign's overworld, which is new in Nightreign. This is worth doing to quickly create space between you and an enemy while still having stamina to pump them full of arrows when you get far enough away. Go for upgrades to Ironeye's damage and stamina during this time. The more arrows you can fire before you run out, and their individual damage will economize Ironeye's game plan to spray and pray very well. But again, if you're getting used to the character, it might be worth it to go for the HP upgrades to give yourself more exchange expendability to learn Ironeye's ins and outs. Ironeye is one of the most forgiving characters solo or otherwise for bosses. However, a consideration to make with him is he does not have high HP. So the general strategy you'll want to stick by is the traditional spacing yourself appropriately and not letting bosses corner you against the enclosed circle. It's a bit outside the scope of this video to detail Ironeye's matchups against each potential Night Invader boss, but again, making use of ability to do tremendous damage and his marking and ultimate abilities, take your time against these bosses because there's no longer a time constraint to beat the Nightreign out. Go to the center castle unless you have unfinished business elsewhere on the map. Ironeye will be able to clear out the mini-bosses adorning its walls now with relative ease, and you need sources of higher rune drops. As anyone who's played a few expeditions of Nightreign knows by now, the worst enemy spawn in the castle are the trolls who throw exploding magic pot bombs at you. Your strategy here should be to attack the trolls from decreasing elevation, because the lower trolls will often throw pots against walls or geometry while attempting to throw pots at you instead of hitting you while you're higher than them. You can clear these trolls out while making use of single shot anytime you feel like enemies are starting to overwhelm you. Once you reach level 11, you should attempt to head to the top of the castle and defeat the high-level field boss that resides there. This will likely be the toughest boss you face in the overworld, so be prepared, but they tend to drop weaponry that makes the challenge worth it upon beating them. By now, the second circle will likely have formed and started closing in the Nightreign. Continue clearing the trash out and mini-bosses out, and by now, you'll likely be acceptable level to face the Night Lord of this run, which is usually level 12 or 13. If you're feeling like you can make it work, find a field boss represented by this icon, near where you'll be fighting the second Night Invader boss for a high rune drop and additional permanent upgrade. Keep your head down and make use of your sniping ability with marking and single shot to chain stance breaks against the Night 2 fight. Try for additional stamina and damage as the permanent upgrades to Ironeye as a reward for beating the second Night Invader. Congrats! You survived the expedition and are ready to make use of your newly acquired Murder Death turret to take out the Night Lord. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing so I can continue making these videos, it would mean a lot to me. These guides are pretty fun to make, so I'll probably continue doing it. And hope everyone's enjoying Nightreign, and I'll see you next time.